All right, how much time do I have, preacher?
You have as much time as you'd like up until 12.
All right, let's see. I may not take all of that time, or I may,
That's
I don't
fine.
know.
That's fine.
Let's jump in. Um, want to talk with my job today is very exciting for me because um, my friend and my brother, Pastor Dudley, has asked me to talk about something that I'm truly passionate about, and I hope you will be inspired by it today. We'll have a little bit of conversation, and so give me 2 seconds. Let me make sure I can see everybody. Is there a chat feature up in here? Let me see. Do you have chat feature? Anybody's got the chat feature up? All right, I'm going to open up. Who's responsible for letting anybody in? Can let me in if I open a new Zoom, right?
Yes, we have Errol and Chi.
So I'm going to open up on my iPad because I want to be able to see the chat separately.
Okay.
So I'll open that in a few minutes. Just, so I can get in on that. All right. 2 seconds, 2 seconds, 2 seconds, 2 seconds. Okay. All right, I'll get it in a minute. All right, so text me, Francois, the actual link so I can just click on my iPad and
I'll send it to you right now.
Yeah, thanks. All right, so I've been asked to talk about the post-pandemic ministry and technology, post-pandemic ministry and technology. This is a very exciting time for us, for our church, for our world. It's interesting that we note that COVID-19 has changed our world and it has changed the church. Now, whether you want to acknowledge that as a reality, that's another question, but the reality is our church will never be the same again as a result of what COVID-19 has done to our church. Our world is not the same. The way we interconnect, the way we do things, the way we relate, all of that is now a lot of virtual and hybrid and online. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that in a moment. We'll talk a little bit more about that. But I want you to be able to stay close to your chats because we're going to be interacting a little bit. All right, so here it is. We keep going. So our commission as a church, we're talking the context now as local communication directors for your churches. The commission is given to us in the Bible to proclaim the gospel in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come. This picture was taken, of course, at the Mount Vernon Church, where we did one of those 7 last words. Pastor Francois was there. He was one of the speakers. And it just reminds me of the fact that anybody remembers when we never used to have to wear masks and we could worship close to each other and everything like that. In fact, it's so interesting because I was watching TV the other day and I saw people coming so close, one of those old movies. And I'm like, man, you're too close to each other. You need a little bit more space between each other. But beyond that, this is our new reality. This is our new reality. When before the pandemic, when you were preaching, you'll be able to see the blue screens looking back at you. But now you don't even have the blue screens looking back and shining at people's faces. Now you just have these virtual connections. You're talking and preaching to a screen. You're talking and preaching to a fiber connection, an internet connection that connects with individuals on the other side. So let me help you to set the spiritual foundation, and then I'll talk a little bit to the communication directors individually and collectively. Number one, the first thing I want to share, I share this in most, if not all my slides, this particular quote, because as communication directors, you need to see yourselves as part of ministry. And I'll spread it out in the next slide. But Ellen White says in the book Evangelism, let every worker in the master's vineyard study, plan, devise methods to reach the people where they are. We must do something out of the common course of things, which must arrest the attention, we must be deadly in earnest. We must do something out of the common course of things. Now, I had this slide before COVID, and a lot of people were like, man, all right, stop coding, man. It doesn't make sense. But guess what? After COVID, everybody's realizing, oh, if we keep doing what we were doing before, we're going to die. And a lot of churches have still not gotten that message yet. Change must happen in the way we do things. And we've got to be comfortable with change. So here are a couple of things. Number one, communication leaders. You occupy the most significant role in our churches. I put the most, as some people say, I'm a most, but outside of the first elder and the treasurer, I think pastors have come to the realization that that media team communication leader is the most significant position or person that you need to have on your team. So as you build your church communication team, build a team that you understand the significance of the role. Secondly, must be able to balance corporate mission and technology for church. And this slide is missing my automation, but the others do have it. So sorry about that. But balance corporate mission and technology for church. Now, here's the challenge. I worked in corporate America in communication and media. As Pastor Francois said to you, I worked for CNN. I worked as an electronic news and as a television reporter for LI News, Long Island News, out of NYIT. And so I understand the corporate world, a corporate mindset, but I also understand the church. And if you are a communication professional that comes from corporate America, and you are elected to be the communication director of your church, I can tell you your biggest struggle is going to be aligning your corporate philosophy with mission, because the two are slightly different. They've got similar principles, but the missional aspect of what we do calls for a lot more variance and leniency in some way from the corporate mission, the corporate level of excellence in how things are done. And you're having a corporate team like I do of designers and social media specialists, and it goes through all of this process. You may not have that in a local church. It may be just a young person that you have on your team, but you have to be able to balance the corporate, the missional piece together, and then you have to balance the technology piece. Here's the issue. A lot of communication directors go and they start at the end. Oh, we want this piece of equipment. We want $20,000 to buy equipment. And you never answer the question of why. Why do you need $10,000? Because we want to broadcast the service. Well, that's not enough reason to say I need $10,000. So you have to be able to balance corporate mission and technology. Because I learned a long time ago that this phrase, they get it when they get it. You may want to type that in the chat. It'll be therapeutic for you. They get it when they get it. You may be trying to lead your pastoral, your church board, and other individuals along the process, but you have to be patient in the process. So your job is to assist the pastor, the leadership team, and the church board in adapting new media technology for worship, discipleship, and evangelism, okay? The corporate aspect is the easy piece. The hard part is how do we create the worship, discipleship, and evangelism pieces? That is significant. And then as communication directors, it requires commitment and patience. Now, let me tell you, you are going to be the first to arrive and the last to go. You're going to be the one that is called on in the middle of the night to do something for the church or to get something designed. You'll be called on when you are on vacation. Yeah, it happens. And you've got to exercise that level of commitment that goes long hours for setup before church and after church to put breakdown. And then it requires patience. Patience with your team members, patience with your board, patience with your pastor and helping them because they get it when they get it. Let me just rest that there for a moment. They get it when they get it, and not a minute before or a minute after. So it takes patience. You've got to be patient with your team members because relationships matter more than anything. Okay? And sometimes we are so strict that we want to get things done that our interpersonal relationships with our team members doesn't happen as it should. So we've got to be patient with each other, patient with those who are a little bit slower. And if you know that as the communication leader, you know that they're a little bit slow on the process, give them the task ahead of time. You know they need to design the worship slides and they're not as quick to do the worship slides. Make sure you get that information to them by Tuesday or Wednesday, the latest. So they have 2 or 3 days to work on it and reduce the stress. Or if you can find an individual who is able to do it quicker, then fine. But be patient with your team members. All right. Remember, technology is disruptive. It causes innovation, but it also causes isolation. And with the adaptation of technology for mission, we have come a long way, and we still have a long way to go. All right, watch this small, short video, and I hope you find it amusing here.
Welcome, and thank you for worshiping with us today. For the consideration of those around you, kindly turn off all cell phone, electronic, and messaging devices at this time. If your device should go off during announcements today, in addition to your regular weekly offering, you will be fined $25. Should your device go off during prayer concerns, the fine will increase to $50. If your device goes off during our sermon today, you're going to hell. Remember, God wants your complete attention. Thank you, and enjoy the service.
Well, that was the reality, right? That you couldn't use your cell phone in church. Anybody remember that time? Anybody knows what I'm talking about? You dare open your cell phone in church, and they're like, what? What are you doing with your cell phone in church? No cell phone in church. In fact, that's actually a sign that was on the door of a sanctuary. Unless it's the good Lord calling, you shouldn't be on your cell phone during services. But the reality is that's where we are today. Cell phones, iPads. And if you still have Blackberries, you have my deepest condolences. But that's the reality of what where we are today, that technology is here to stay and it inhabits that sacred space in our worship experience. So disruptive equals change. Disruptive equals change. And churches and boards and struggle with this item of change. Here's a statement I love the best. Keep this one going. It says, leaders who pretend nothing needs to change end up being the blacksmiths in the era of automobile and Sears in the age of Amazon or Kodak in an Instagram culture. I think that's self-explanatory. But let me give you an illustration by saying that I was at a church one time, and one of the communication director never had a computer, never wanted to use a computer, but the person was not going to be reelected, but they were so upset because why do we have to go in that direction? And what happens to the old way of pen and paper and I get the work done and all of that? Well, it wasn't about pen and paper versus computer or not, but it was simply about, okay, who understands? If you're not able to use the computer, then how will you understand streaming on the online process, on the online platform? But yet still you want the communication role. But they weren't willing to adopt. They weren't willing to accept the change that, hey, change is here. Change is here in the local church, also in how we do church. And communication directors have a pivotal role in effective this change. Here is another rationale for change. Now, this may not make any sense to you when you look at it. When you look at this slide, it doesn't make any sense to you. So it'll help me explain this slide to you. In the according to Pew Research Center back in 2014, all right, this is how far back, and I've kept this slide for a reason. If we are building our church towards the boomer generation, watch that gold line. That gold line is on the decline, and it is at age 65 and above. They're going down, going down, going down. And notice the Gen Xers, that are those who are born up until 1981, 82. They are not the larger group. The millennials are 81 and onward, right? And watch this. As of January 2015, millennials are the largest group in the United States. Now, why is this significant? This is significant because if you as a communication director sit on the board and you are not helping your church to be contextually relevant, then you are not doing your job. If all you're focusing on is getting the next piece of equipment, then you are missing out on why you are the communication director. You ought to help the church to develop a strategy to reach these people in that digital, in that online space. And we're going to talk about that a little bit. All right, so technology and ministry. Technology enables communication, enables community, and enables discipleship. All right, quickly, 2 seconds, 5 seconds. Type which one? One. I know you're going to tell me all three, okay? I'm not looking for all three. I'm looking for one. Which one of these three does technology do first? Communication, community, or discipleship? Write it in the chat quickly. All right. I see the answers. Communication. All right. And the award goes to, ladies and gentlemen, for a free trip to the Caribbean. Compliments of your communication director, Pastor Dudley Francois. The free trip goes to, that's a joke, okay? I don't know if he's going to give you any free trip. To Jay Ryan. Christina was the first to reply. She put communication. Jay Ryan put community. And Vanessa McKinney put community. I wonder why they put community. I would ask why. But we're going to talk about that in a quick minute. If Jay Ryan is open, Jay Ryan, open your mic and tell me why you put community. Open your mic quickly. Jay Ryan.
Yeah, both my wife and I are here, and I want to just give credit to her because she's the one that made the suggestion. I just typed it in, but she's going to tell you.
Who's that? Who's the one who suggested it?
My wife.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. Let me hear from your wife.
Okay, the reason why we said community is because communication is all about the message, and the message is togetherness. We are here together to do something.
Not hearing her clearly.
Okay, the reason why we put community is because communication is all about conveying a message, and that message has to go to a group of people so that we can do something together. It's a community.
Excellent. So what people don't realize is that your church is a community. So Facebook is a community. Hello. Instagram is a community. TikTok is a community. Snapchat is a community. And it is within that community that communication takes place. So the concept is, hey, we've got to create this community so that we can have this communication taking place. It is in this community that discipleship takes place. All right, we're going to talk more about that in a minute, okay? But let's accept the fact that change is happening, so that so many of you are here and you are on, 115 of you are on You have not turned on your mics because of one fact, or turn on your cameras because of one fact. If I were to stop sharing my screen and ask Dudley Francois to say to everybody, everybody's got to turn on their mic, many people would hit the leave button. They would not turn on their mics. Why? Because they're in their pajamas. They're here. They have hair rolls on their head. They're probably in the bathroom. They're probably on the street. They're not properly. They don't have their makeup on. They don't have it. They don't have it all put together as it should be. So guess what? That same reality that's happening right now with you on the other side of the screen laughing because you don't want to turn on the mic because you're inappropriately dressed is the reason why we have the church that goes to the people that go to church in pajamas. And this is the reality of today. All right. So let me help somebody. Somebody said they're on Amtrak, low bandwidth. All right, great. Let's look at the reality. So this is a text message that I had from a conversation with a friend last night. This is last night, right? And I'm preaching in our neighborhood with our church, old friend from mine. We went to school together, and my parents, everybody, and her family we all coming together, and we are saying, okay, you need to come to church and be with us this Sabbath, trying to get her to come back into the church, right? Look what's her response to me. I asked her for permission to share this, by the way. So she said, you have my permission. I just deleted her name. But look at it. She says, I haven't been to church in so long. It's not what? Natural anymore. Did you see what she wrote? It's not natural anymore. I love church from my couch with a big heart sign. I enjoy Sabbaths so much more now. Oh, my Lord. That statement is so loaded. I said to her, I got to sit down with you and we got to go through each of those sentences just one by one, just to figure out what's happening. Because this is the reality that we must face. So we use these words, virtual and online, interchangeably. In fact, when the pandemic started, one of your elders, Pastor Francois from Northeastern, a famous elder in one of the churches, and I were talking, and he said to me, I'm done with church. He's one of your big churches. I'm done with church. I ain't going back to the physical church, right? And he said, I said, why? He said, man, I'm done with church because I don't want to catch this COVID thing. I'm old, I'm retired, and I just need to just go. I'll just watch it online, and when I'm done with watching my church service, I go down to Oakwood and I watch Bird, and when I'm done with Bird, I go to West Jamaica and I watch Glenn Samuels, and I enjoy all from the comfort of my bedroom. And we also talked about we don't need that physical space to be that church. All of those things coming back to bite us. And the reality is we now must pivot to the reality of virtual versus online. The virtual church versus the online church. Now, these are two words that are used and misused, even by communication professionals, all right, who don't understand the difference between the two. So let me explain. The virtual experience is a space where we can gather together. It's usually in person, in an electronic form, okay? The online experience is an experience that goes to the general public that does not require your physical presence, but is also not on demand, also on demand. A virtual is that live virtual physical experience. That online is you can watch it whenever you want, get to it whenever you get to it, okay? Now, a virtual can have that online component also, but that virtual experience is different. The virtual church. I know this Northeastern, I don't know, I want to make sure, I don't know was it virtual or online, but you'll correct me when I'm done with Ivor Myers. I know you guys pivoted to set up a church, but watch this. The virtual church is here. Okay. What does that virtual church experience look like? The virtual church experience is let me use, for example, the common one that everybody knows. You know, that Zoom. Everybody comes on Zoom, use that Zoom. That's a virtual experience. When you hit that start, go live, now you've moved it from that virtual to that online experience. All right. We'll talk about the online experience in a moment. But the virtual church, how many of you have ever heard of Second Life? If you've never heard of Second Life, it's part of my doctoral dissertation. I talked about Second Life. It was actually in this area that we had the first virtual Seventh-day Adventist church. It's on one of the islands called Prophecy Island, because we're a church of prophecy, Prophecy Island. If you don't know what Second Life is this virtual space run by avatars who are real people who they do everything there. They do banking, they do shopping, they do intimate relationships in there, they do go to church there, they do everything there, okay? And in 2014, there was this church there on Prophecy Island that was done by the Seventh-day Adventist Church, a young man, Curtis, and was funded in part by the Global Mission of the General Conference. And then there was another one that was done in Brazil. Both of them did not get, they had a few people worshiping, but most people are not in Second Life. So it didn't get as much traction. Then we moved on to COVID, and COVID now brought Zoom. Now, when Zoom came on, everybody just knew Zoom as a conference, video conferencing software. But that platform became that virtual space where churches could have Bible study and churches could have worship experience and discipleship programs. Now, that virtual experience for some was translated to the online experience. Let me jump ahead of myself by saying to you, if you're not ready to and properly prepared to use Zoom as an online platform, do not use it as an online platform. All right? Now, a lot of other communication people may tell you, hit the live, hit the stream program button. But listen, when you have people whose cameras are and their microphones turn on, and literally, this is a real case. We had a real case where a lady was actually changing her clothes and her camera was on, and she didn't know that her camera was on and her mic was on. And this was before you could mute the person. And this is how we're trying to get the person's attention. Hey, and that was captured. Because once that person moves, it comes up over the other person, okay? And you go live on that. That's embarrassing, all right? So virtual space does not have to equate to online space. All right, now having said that, this is the next thing. Oh man. The Facebook Meta, all right, or Meta, whatever wording you want to use. Now, the verdict is still out on this. Because when Facebook Meta came out, this was the slide that I presented. I presented that people said Facebook Meta is dead on arrival because it mimics Second Life. However, 2.5 weeks ago, I said that Facebook Meta is going to be around to stay because I didn't realize that they spent so much money building that infrastructure and they have that financial backing that they were building this virtual space of the virtual reality of where we will be by 2025 and beyond. Okay? Then a week later, the stock tumbles. Why? Oh, by the way, because of the interconnectivity. So Facebook Meta stumbles because Apple puts in a privacy restriction, and then Google is about to do that also. And it tumbles and takes away all the money and income that Facebook has. And by the way, this is important so you understand. Before, in the church, you used to be able to use Facebook to do marketing. So you could target a community, a zip code. You could target people who are interested in Bible studies. You could use you could use tag keywords and all of that. All of that's gone. All of that's gone. Okay. Facebook lost all of that's gone like in a week. That disappeared. Okay. Major chaos at Facebook. And here's what's happening. But in the chaos, here's the opportunity. So Zuckerberg rallies his employees to do what? Focus on video, like TikTok and all of that. And they're losing money. And I like the one on the right one. Social network could conquer the world by 2025 or end up being in the scrap heap of history. All right. You be the verdict which way it's going to go. But here it is. Here it is. If you as communication directors do not have a team of individuals that have adapted video as a part of your social media strategy, you're missing the mark. Even Zuckerberg missed the mark. Even he couldn't read the trends. Everything is pivoting. Instagram Reels is the way to go. Video, showing video content. That is the way of the future. All right, so we talk about the online. So we talk about the virtual and the online experience. The online experience, I will say this. Pastor, I hope I don't get into trouble for saying this now, but I'm going to get into trouble. Communication directors, your job is to help the church to move away from the fly on the wall mentality. All right, so you're looking at me. What's the fly on the wall mentality? Here is what most churches do with an online. Hey, we're going to have church today. We have the phrase team and we want to have the church to come together. We have the church come together and then we put the camera up here and then we just have the camera capturing what's happening in the worship experience. But guess what? There is zero interaction with the online audience. And because there is zero interaction with the online audience, you never did ministry for the online audience. All you had was them pitch like a fly on the wall just to watch what's happening. That online experience requires that you develop content for your online audience. I preached for a church on Sabbath yesterday, and they add little pieces that they add to their worship experience. Pastor Francois has this kids thing that he does. That's another good piece to add to your worship experience. You do things that and by the way, let me give you a real life example from Mount Rubidoux Church. Mount Rubidoux Church years ago, when I was doing my doctorate, I was out there and I was doing some assessments, and one of the things that they were doing, they were speaking to their online audience while the pastor, Michael, was talking to the audience in front of him, and Seth was talking to the online audience. Both of them were talking at the same time, but at two different cameras. And guess what? Seth is appealing to the people online, and the pastor is talking to the people inside for the offering. Do you know that the online audience gave just as much money as the virtual experience? You're missing out on a way to connect with your global audience. But if you're not ready for the global stage, stay off the stage. All right, you're all right. All right. So where's the wave of the future? The wave of the future is this, the hybrid. It's going to be some of virtual and some of online. Online will not go away. It's like window shopping. I was studying with a lady, and the lady wanted to be baptized, and she wanted to know which church to go to. I put her zip code in. It was in the Bronx, and she said, I brought up about 3 or 4 churches in the area, and she said, okay, Pastor, I'll watch them online for the next few weeks before I decide which church I go into. All right. So communication directors, you have an important responsibility to manage the face of your church so that when people look at your church, they have a pleasant experience before they even walk through the doors of the church. All right, let me keep going. The post-pandemic online church strategies, be creative. All right. Think outside the box. Do creative things with your worship experience, okay? Don't go off the rails now, but creative with within reason, okay? Within reason. Don't go say, well, Pastor Wellington said I should be creative and you do something crazy, okay? I didn't say be crazy. I said be creative, all right? Those two different things, all right? Be creative. Then be adaptable, okay? Flexibility is the name of the game. You got to be adaptable. How can you adapt some things? And if you're taking something, make sure you have credit to use it, okay? If you are streaming online and streaming on YouTube, they will shut you down. It doesn't matter how spiritual your church is. It doesn't matter how much tithe your church takes in. They will shut you down if you don't have the copyright. So be adaptable. Build around your context. Don't try to be the potter's house if you're not the potter's house. Hello. If your church is just a small church and you only have one camera, a little Mevo camera, and you only have one little singer inside there who can sing, let that one singer sing. And don't try to put, oh my goodness, don't give everybody the mic. My Lord. But build around your context. If you don't have anybody to sing, that's all right. Find some public domain songs and play those. It's better to play something good than have somebody off key. I know my singing abilities. I can tell you something. I can sing like a dove. In fact, I was so great a singer that when I sang to my daughter, she would just smile away. But that was when she couldn't talk. And after she learned to talk, and I started singing, she would say, nah, 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 da, da, nah, 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 da, da. Okay? Learn your gifts and stay in your, help them. Hello. And if they don't, you tell the team, tell the pastor, hello, you can't get to the stage like that, all right? Be intentional about connecting, okay? Build on multiple platforms, connecting with people. You've got to be able to connect with people. Build on multiple platforms, okay? If you're building on Instagram, build on Facebook, build on others. And then measure effectiveness in strategy. This is one of the things that we are fearful of, people, but it's okay to measure. It's okay to say, how are we doing, okay? How are we doing? Are we being effective with our strategy? As the communication director, you are responsible for helping to develop that strategy. So if your pastor doesn't have the strategy, sketch it out on paper, type it out, and say, Pastor, can I spend a few minutes with you and share that strategy? And then both of you will end up, I can bet you, there will not be a pastor who will refuse a communication director bringing a strategy for how to build their church in this virtual space. I don't know of a pastor who will, and if your pastor rejects that, report him to Pastor Francois. I'm sure he'll be looking for a job soon. Because any pastor who doesn't want to be relevant won't be relevant to stay in the game. All right? All right. Now it's not, somebody said it right. Now it's not the time for we need to have our A game when we come to the table. All right. So let me talk about the building community. All right. So I'm talking about team. That was my team. Some of the team key members from Northeastern and Greater New York. Some of them were there. Not everybody's there, but some of the team members. All right. Team is important. No man is an island. The days of one person doing communication is over. You know how long it's over? It was over from back in 2000. Now you need somebody to do your writing, news writing. You need somebody to do your photography. You need somebody to do your audio. You need somebody to do your video. You need somebody to do your floor directing. You need somebody to manage your streaming. You need somebody. It's a team. So it's no one person, okay? Then as you're building community, have an intentional target audience. Who are you trying to reach? Then choose commitment. You need commitment over competency. Now, not at the expense of competency. Okay? Not at the expense of competency. But I would rather choose a committed person than an overzealous, narcissistic, competent person. Because they will not work with the team. They will only want to do things their way. It's only their way or the highway. So choose commitment, balance that with competency. And also intentionality. Are you building on Twitter? Are you building on Facebook? Are you building on LinkedIn? Are you building on Instagram? Who are you targeting? What is your strategy? Be intentional about it. The future is here. So let me talk about 3 things and then I'll wrap this up. 3 areas that I think the virtual and the online church need to develop. 3 areas. Number 1, electronic giving, social media, and streaming. I know you have breakout sessions, so I'm not going to go into these in depth. I'm just going to speak about them on the surface in some areas that I think needs to be done. And then the breakout sessions can go into them in details. Electronic giving, the benefits of e-giving and mobile commerce or e-commerce are that anyone can give, donate, register, or purchase anytime or anywhere. I was at Linden Church when everybody knows Candice. Candice was sick and they were trying to raise money for her at the time. And I was there the night and I watched young people, young adults, millennials. I watched them raise over $30,000 over there at Linden Church, just out on that night from mobile giving. Don't tell me it cannot be done. And that was using the various platforms. Anybody and any church who does not have this mobile giving is missing out on a significant portion of gathering revenue. Here is, I mean, some churches have this platform. You're familiar with e-giving, Adventist giving. That's 100% free. If your church doesn't have it, I suggest you can get that. If there are other presenters on the air, they can go into depth on Adventist giving and e-giving. So I'm just giving it the surface, but every single church should have Adventist giving as a part of their strategy for their digital engagement. Secondly, social media. All right. Now, I'm going to hit you hard here. I'm going to hit you hard here. Here's a mistake that a lot of communication, it has a mobile app. Yes, it does. It has a mobile app. Here's a piece now. Social media is both a stethoscope, magnifying your ability to listen to your congregation and community, and a megaphone, magnifying your ability to proclaim God's word to your community. All right. So here's the mistake a lot of communication directors do. Ready for it? Ready for it, communication directors? They do not take out their stethoscope and they do not listen to what the community wants. They allow the church board to dictate and say, this is what we want. This is what we're going to give them. And so you design flyers and programs and you do things for the community when the community doesn't want it because it's not what they're addressing. Excuse me. So for communication directors, here's a tool, 3 tools I'm going to tell you. If you are managing social media, you need to use one of these social media tools. So Hootsuite is one, Sprout Media is another. But beyond that, I think you need to have the listening tools, especially for your communication department at the conference. Pastor Francois, if you don't have that listening tool is key for social development. If churches who can afford it, make sure you have that listening tool. All right. That's big. That is big. All right. So which social media platform is the big one today? Anybody knows that answer? All right, there you go. Still Instagram, not Facebook. By the way, people are leaving Facebook, just so you know. All right. Including millennials shutting down. So I'm only going to show you this right here. All right. If you're trying to reach the various groups of people, This is your key, okay? Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook. If you're not building around those areas, then you're missing out on a significant opportunity to do ministry in that online space, all right? All right, so let's go to the next one, and I'm going to move on to the wrap towards the ending. Streaming, all right? I've picked photos of your churches, Pastor. Don't worry. I ain't coming to take your church, but just pick photos of your churches, all right? So here it is, streaming, the secret to online streaming. Now, this is it. If you have this slide, you're good. Content, all right? You want the listening tools, Hootsuite or Sprout Media. Yeah, Sprout. All right. The secret to successful online ministry is in content. And you as communication directors are responsible for the presentation of that content and the streaming of that content. That's your job, okay? So make sure that it is good. Pastor, can I see your slides before they go up? I just want to help you with them. If you're having slides that are going up for the rest of the church, make sure they're properly done. Spelling, watch for the spelling. Make sure it's clean, look, and it goes up, okay? Engagement, two-way communication is important. It is the communication department's responsibility to manage that two-way communication, okay? That's your job. So focus on managing that two-way communication, which includes the decision card connect, okay? After the pastor makes his appeal, make sure you manage that. And finally, the equipment. Can I just say that Sprout Social, correct, Sprout Social. Can I just say that this is a mistake that a lot of people make in that they go to the question of equipment first, all right? Equipment is the last question you ask about. That's the last thing. If your first question is equipment, then you have missed the mark because you don't have a strategy. If you don't have a strategy, then you don't know what you're going to do. You don't know what equipment you need. And then oftentimes you buy the equipment and it's like, oh, but we want to do this. Well, that piece of equipment can't do it. But you didn't ask me about that first. Yeah, because we never had a meeting to discuss our strategy. Whose fault is it? And then everybody start blaming everybody that they wasted $20,000 and now they want to do all this and they can't. Okay, before you get to equipment, have a strategy meeting with the board, with your leadership. Where are we going? And what are we trying to achieve? And then you can talk about equipment. Streaming your service is for the public. Let me just say this again. Let me just stop and just say it for you. Live streaming is not necessary or even recommended for many churches if the church is not ready. All right, y'all probably gonna get upset with me, but it's okay. I just telling you the truth right here. Because many people think that live streaming is for them. Live streaming is not for you. Once it gets on the good online web, it is gone and you cannot retrieve it. And guess what? I've seen a few churches and a couple of them in Northeastern too. And I'm telling you, some big churches and some good churches that have made it to the viral network. If you know what viral network means, it's gone viral with memes. Anybody knows what they talk about when we talk about memes? All right. And memes is a very hilarious thing. I've seen here come off in the memes. I've seen off keys go off in the memes. I've seen and heard, and this one is personal, not because it's me, but it's not connected to me, but it's personal because I want to say this to communication directors. You are responsible for monitoring that stream. You are responsible. And I'm going to give you, because this is a communication forum, I'm going to tell you something that I was very embarrassed about, highly offended about. And it was a lady, an elderly lady they were having a testimonial time. And the elder or somebody, one of the leaders of the church, had her come up and have the mic. and she was testifying. And she said she went to the doctor, and I'm going to be, everybody's above 18, but this is viral, it's public, so it doesn't even matter. She said she began to tell about what the doctor did to her and where his hand went in her private parts and what she was doing. And she wasn't using those words. She was being graphic and what the doctor was doing within her. And I'm saying to myself, that's somebody's mother. Now, how would you feel if you were watching the internet and 15 million people are watching and hearing your mother talk about how she was being violated, and nobody saw it fit to mute the mic, nor turn off the mic, nor even pull the lady out down? That's your responsibility. All right? But that's my 2 cents. I gotta go. Let me give you something funny about memes. This is my former conference president doing a baptism. Well, you just watch. If you find it funny, you'll get it. If you don't get it, then I'll move on. If you get it, you get it.
Espinal declara, amén, gloria al Señor. Tú que nos estás mirando también a través de la plataforma de YouTube.
If you got it, you got it, okay?
That was my former conference president too.
That's your former conference president. But if you get it, you get it. But that's funny, all right? Here are some final few slides. Basic needs. Please have a well-organized worship service, good music, and biblically engaging, relevant messages, all right? Just focus on that. All right, finally, streaming personnel. Here are some basic needs for your streaming personnel. Trained camera operator, competent, somebody say competent. You need a competent audio engineer for the stream, competent audio engineer for the stream, competent audio engineer for the stream, competent audio engineer for the stream. Hallelujah. Somebody say hallelujah. Competent audio engineer for the stream, because faith comes by hearing and hearing the word of God. All right. So you need competent audio engineer for the stream. All right. And also you need floor directing for staging. Now, most people are not doing bulletins anymore, okay? So you just do a run sheet, make sure you have a run sheet and timing allotments to those run sheet. Ladies and gentlemen of the Northeastern Conference, it is absolutely okay between heaven and earth to have church finish at 12:30. It's of no offense to anyone. It's okay to have a short run sheet. In fact, shorter is better. So please, they don't need to get up there and be talking all of the nonsense. Everybody don't need to get up there and be like, hello, happy Sabbath, and God, all of that stuff. No, just get to the point and get it done, all right? You need a technical director. That's a person who directs the shots. You need a video engineer for the bigger churches who will do the video calibration. That's very important. And this is very important also, character generator. You need to make sure you have a character generator. Label the people who are speaking, that lower thirds. Make sure that this is done. All right, finally, I'm going to end on this. I got more, but I'm going to end on this so I can get some questions. It's 11:50 now. We're gone for an hour. What you do as communication directors, media professionals, you are working for the Lord, okay? So you may not get up in the pulpit and preach a message, but what you do is significant. All right. So take your responsibility significant. If you're operating a camera or taking pictures or whatever your role is, whatever you are doing, take it seriously. It is a task that has been given to you, and I pray that as you use that use your talent to advance God's kingdom, that his church will be blessed by it. All right. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to end my presentation right there. I'm going to say thank you very much for the opportunity to share with you today. And I'm going to open up for some questions. I could go some more if you need me to keep going, but I got more to go. But I'm going to pause right there, Pastor Francois.
All right, we're going to open it up for questions at this time. What we're going to do is we're going to ask, if you do have a question, please, we wanted you to raise your virtual hand. So all we wanted you to do is find your reaction button, and under reactions, you'll see raise hand. And if you have a question, please press that button. And then one of our tech team volunteers will spotlight you next to Dr. Wellington for you to ask this question. And if you do not want to be featured, please make sure you write your question in the chat, and we'll take a couple of moments for you to do so at this time.
Christina.
Hello. So I'm the social media director for my church. I was recently appointed this past November, I believe it was. And one thing I realized when I looked at the analytics of all of our social media across the board is that a majority of our audience is in the, I hope I'm not being too forward with this, but in the 50 and older category. And one of the things that our pastors, our directors across the board have been trying to figure out basically is, how do we reach our younger audiences? And I wanted to ask if you had any suggestions or pointers in that term, because I know social media is like the younger man's game, but looking at our audience, it matches our church, our in-house audience.
Great question. Great question. And I would say start by developing content for kids. Most churches don't have content that's dedicated to children. And so because they don't have content that's dedicated to children, they don't have the ability to attract children to that. If you go, I'll give you one example. I'll probably just drop this in the chat. Here's Pastor Francois has something. I did something with my daughter on that very same thing, and I'll make it available to you guys. I think you probably have used it at your church. Here's one. You can use that if you guys want to. That's a healthy tips. It may be dated. We did it back in 2021, but you can look at some things. There are a couple of them there in that channel. I'll open up the channel because I think I may have closed it, but you got some content. Use kids content with permission. But if you want to get to the younger generation, particularly kids, there's very little programming for kids. That's one. Two, if you're trying to reach young adult population, then they need to be reflected in the programming also, okay? And so that, I think, is part of the strategy to engage them. Be careful also when you make the assessment with your Google Analytics, because for kids, they may be using their parents' device. So your measurables now can't be just on devices, but engagement. And so if you have the program for kids and you have that level of engagement and responses from kids, then you know you're being effective. And you're just not measuring just by the devices that are out there, that are connected.
Thank you.
Excellent. You're welcome.
All right, we have the pastor of the Shiloh Church.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wellington. Beautiful presentation you did this morning. Want to affirm you. Have a question when it comes to advertisement. A lot of our members, they seem to like to promote what's happening on everybody else's platform. They want to promote all over the world, but they don't seem to be specific bullet target on promoting what their church would have to offer. How do we help our leaders to understand that, hey, we cater to the whole world, but where you are, your target area is your first priority? Can you please speak to that, or the importance of promoting what you have to offer in your church and not specifically promoting everything else the world is doing and hurting your own platform? Please speak on that, sir.
Man, you're putting me in a dangerous spot to respond to that. Very, very dangerous spot. All right, let me see if I can tread water carefully with a response to that. So I have the answer. I just don't want to give you the answer directly because it could be misunderstood. So let me give context. I think that it's very difficult to control what people can share on their own timelines. People share what their interests are. So if they find themselves attracted or interested in other things, that's what they're going to share. If they don't take ownership of something that, or feel good about what they're experiencing in their own church, then they may or may not share. One way to get them to is to help them to take ownership in that process. And by helping to take ownership in that process, give them a part to play as part of the strategy. So you may, for example, instead of just promoting, let's say you have a diabetes workshop that your church may have. You can ask them to engage 2 or 3 individuals and submit those names to you. Now they take that as a part of their ownership to go out and promote it on their page, and they see the missional value in it. And then they can say, okay, here's my contribution. I've recruited, I've blessed, I've ministered or witnessed to 2, and here's what I'm going to bring to the table. Apart from that, I would strongly encourage the church to have what is called its funding, but Google and is about to pull the plug on it. So it's kind of 50-50 right now. And Apple did pull for Facebook, but I would say sponsorship of your ads for your program, based on geography, based on the people you're trying to reach, a demographic, is a good way to raise your profile in what you do. At the end of the day, you're trying to raise your algorithm. So whatever events you have a digital interest coordinator or a digital person that is helping to boost your engagement around your online event. And once that engagement is boosted, then your algorithm will begin to rise. And then the individuals now may be able to see some of your postings, because sometimes the church institutional pages, the algorithm is so low that they're not seen, but personal pages are seen. And then finally, just call them up and say, hey man, can you share this on your page for me? And let them decide whether or not they want to share it. I would say don't guilt trip them into doing it, because then they'll just cut you off. But just ask them, hey, can you share this, man? Can you put this on your page? Hey, I want you to put it. I've had folks try to force people. And I've seen that. You have to put this on your page. In fact, I had a case where they would go around and check to see who was posting stuff on their pages and what. And I refuse to be participating in that, because don't guilt trip people into the process. You want people to be proud of what they do. So I would say ask them directly is one way. Develop a strategy of engagement where they can participate in the sharing process, and or recruitment, and promoting your event. Those are 3 ways I think you could raise that.
Thank you, Doc. Appreciate that. But let me be a bit more specific here. So, for example, we see a lot of members in many churches, right?
Right.
You're having your prayer meeting at 7 o'clock, and they're promoting somebody else's prayer meeting And the same people from your platform, they're trying to steal your sheep to go elsewhere. Is there something ethically wrong with that? Because you're having a meeting at 7 o'clock and they're telling somebody else to go on somebody else's platform at 7 o'clock, and they're using church-sponsored media platform. Is there something ethical?
What do you mean? What do you mean by church-sponsored media platform?
For example, you would have a
Not
leader.
their personal. They're using the church institution page to do so.
Correct. Or a WhatsApp account.
That's wrong.
They set up for the church. They're using for their their church, for the church. So many ministries. So
let me see if I understand you. I'm going to use an example. The Verizon Church. The Verizon Church is having its program, its prayer meeting tonight, and the Verizon Church is promoting Bell South prayer meeting instead of Verizon and it's promoting Bell South on Verizon's page, correct?
Correct. And so they're
so you need to talk to the administrator of the page and have that addressed. You can't do that. Now, if it's on their personal page, you can't control that. But if it's on an institutional page, then yeah, then it should not be doing that. No, you gotta be loyal to the group that you are. Now, having said that, though, let me say this, Pastor. The beauty about what the pandemic has done is that the pandemic has leveled the playing field. And by that, I mean the Potter's House, the Oakwood University Church, the Great Ephesus, the Great North, all these churches, and the small 50-member church, all of them have come to the same mercy seat on the same platform. Nobody has any bigger advantage. What makes the difference is strategy. Because if you build community, remember I talked about community? If you are intentional about building community, you will keep your followers. And when you build community, I would say, let's say prayer meeting. I'll use prayer meeting, for example. Keep your prayer meetings nice and tight and together so that people can keep coming and keep coming. And you want to make sure that what you do on your page is of excellence. You manage that, you supervise that. Anybody who's sharing something that you don't want them to, you have them speak to them, and if they're not cooperating, you have to remove them. You just remove them. That's, sorry, unfortunately, but part of the process. 2 more hands to go, 34 seconds.
We're just going to take that last hand that's there, and then we will close out this general session.
Oh, is that me? Dr.
Yes.
Wellington? Okay. Yeah, I have a quick question. You know, I was listening and it's almost like drinking from a fire hose. My question is quickly. From what I understand, quite a lot of churches may have gotten into the streaming and social media aspect of ministry almost as an emergency measure. We didn't have time to plan. You know, COVID just came and everybody was struck by lightning and we had to figure out how to get grounded and all of that. So a lot of things were put in place haphazardly and so on. What is your recommendation at this point? We are almost 2 years into it. Many of us may have certain things in place, not the right way and stuff. What is your recommendation in terms of a strategy to pick things up at this point?
And there you go. The answer is in the last statement you made. At this point, develop a strategy. It's not too late. Develop a strategy of what you want to do and what the church wants to accomplish. Here's a challenge, though. And I've done these presentations and trainings, and I tell individuals, the Adventist church struggles with the cookie cutter mentality, meaning give me the cookie cutter so I can just go and replicate it in my church. Here's the challenge. In this social media strategy, each church must develop its own unique nature of what it's trying to do. And that requires time and labor. And churches who are successful at it, small and large, have taken the time to do that. So I would encourage you to take the time to develop that strategy with your team. Who are we trying to reach? What are we trying to do? What does that look like? And once you develop that strategy, you can adapt with what you have. No, it is not too late. COVID forced that reality upon us. And it is here to stay. It is here to stay. So adapt. And some have stumbled along the way because of COVID and have emerged well. So it's okay. It's okay to stumble. It's okay to not have it all together, but don't stay in that mode. Move towards having it together and developing a strategy. The key is developing a strategy.
Yeah, thank you.
We want to thank Dr. Wellington for being with us today. If I can just speak for all of the communicators and the pastors and the leaders that are with us today, we thank you so much for your expertise. Note that this is a recorded session, so we will have the private link available for those who want to go back and rewatch this presentation if there are things that you missed, so that you can take a little bit less pressure off of the water while you're drinking. Dr. Wellington, thank you so much. I know your schedule is tight. Give the family our best, and we thank you so much for being with us.